I'm Martin Thomas, and it's Wednesday, the 17th of July, 2024. Welcome to the 7-Minute Briefing Podcast, your roundup of news and current affairs from the Middle East and North Africa, brought to you by Sat7. Tragically, war continues to dominate events in the Middle East and North Africa. We urgently need to find our way back to peace, in line with UN Charter of Human Rights and international law. This was the impassioned message that Volker Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, sent to the 56th session of the UN Human Rights Council last month. Among Gaza's tiny Christian community of around 1,000 people, it is estimated that a third have either left the enclave or been killed. Around 600 were sheltering in the Holy Family Church and its compound when an Israeli airstrike last week hit 2 classrooms. Faeqa Ayyad, a 12-year-old girl who was among those sheltering in the Holy Family Church, appeared live on Sat7 current affairs programme You Are Not Alone, with a plea for peace. Presenter Siren Simerjian asked her, "What do you pray for?" "I ask the Lord to stop the war and bring peace and to return to play and live our childhood. My siblings need to live their childhood. When my sister is asleep and she hears strikes, she puts her hands over her ears because she is afraid. I comfort her and hug her. Of course, I am afraid too." Meanwhile, fears grow that the Israel-Gaza war could spill over into Lebanon, where one of Sat7's studios is based, just outside Beirut. Another war is the last thing that Lebanon's political leaders want, on top of an economic collapse and the 2020 Beirut port explosion that have dramatically weakened the country. Around 500,000 Lebanese have left the country over the last 5 years, and the threat of war is only increasing emigration. The country's Christian community especially opposes Hezbollah's activities. In a notable incident in March, residents of Ramaish, a strongly Christian border town, rang church bells to summon crowds to gather in protest, forcing Hezbollah operatives who had set up a rocket launcher near homes to leave. You're listening to the 7-Minute Briefing Podcast, brought to you by Sat7. Keep an eye out for Voices of the Middle East episodes, where you can reflect more deeply on stories of faith from our viewers in the region, and join with Sat7 in prayer for the people of the Middle East and North Africa. To Sudan now, where 750,000 people are on the verge of famine. Outgoing UN aid chief Martin Griffiths said this vast number face catastrophic conditions, while 8.5 million are experiencing acute malnutrition. Some 9 million Sudanese have been displaced by the war, and thousands more continue to flee as fighting reaches new areas. New efforts to achieve a ceasefire by a committee of African heads of state on behalf of the African Union are due to start this month. Listen to our recent 7-minute country briefing, which highlights the situation for Christians in Sudan. Iran this month elected a new president, following the death in a helicopter crash of hardline President Raisi in May. Masoud Pezeshkian was the one candidate in a list of 6 approved by Iran's Guardian Council, who is viewed as a reformer. However, Mansour Bourgi, director of Iranian religious freedom advocacy organisation Article 18, chose to boycott the diaspora ballot stations in the UK. Talking to Christianity Today, Bourgi said, "I participated in the election by not voting, joining the majority who said no to the Islamic Republic." During the aftermath of the elections, Sat7's Persian programmes continue to give comfort and hope to those struggling to find a platform for their voice. While dramatic change is unlikely, pray that the new presidency will see progress in human rights, including those of Iran's Christians. And finally, Amidst the conflicts, inspiring stories emerge in the form of 3 new films. In Egypt, a film following a remarkable group of women recently won the Golden Eye Documentary Award at the Cannes Film Festival. The Brink of Dreams was shot over a period of 4 years, focusing on the young members of an all-female theatre troupe and highlights important issues such as early marriage, education, and domestic violence. Meanwhile, Sat7 was also thrilled to announce that Toxic, its first feature-length film, is now available for travellers on major Middle Eastern airlines. Toxic, a thrilling Arabic drama about relationships, trauma, and forgiveness, was shot primarily in Sat7 Studio in Cairo. And finally, the first feature-length film produced by Sat7 Turk has had a cinema release across Turkey. Yakamos follows the lives of 2 families, one Turkish and one Greek, as they were involved in a mass population exchange under a peace treaty between Greece and Turkey in August 1924. The film's 2 families are unwillingly brought together in the course of these events, but soon discover points of connection and friendship. Pray that 100 years after the original events, audiences will be touched by its message of respect for racial and religious differences. Thank you for listening to the 7-Minute Briefing podcast, brought to you by Sat7. Take a look at today's show notes to read, listen to, and watch more content connected to this month's news, especially the briefing long read article, plus announcements about our award-winning documentaries and films.